Summary revision for element 1.1, the scope and nature of occupational health and safety. We begin by looking at the learning outcomes. This includes the understanding of the multidisciplinary nature of health and safety, the barriers to good standards of health and safety, including the complexities, the competing and conflicting demands, behavioural issues, and meaning and distinction between health, safety, and welfare. Society's attitude to work has undergone a considerable change over the last 100 years, and certainly since the Health and Safety at Work Act, from previously tolerating poor working environments and conditions and just accepting injury and ill health as part of the job, to currently our high expectations of a comfortable working environment, suitable working hours, and returning home to spend more time with family and friends injury and illness free. Ultimately, it's unacceptable to put people at risk from health and safety failures. Regardless of the work activity, no one should be at risk from injury, illness, or death. The work by health and safety practitioners and enforcement agencies such as the Fire Service, the Health and Safety Executive, and the local authorities are a due testament to the amount of reduction in accidents and ill health across the UK. However, there are barriers to implementation of good health and safety standards. Due to the broad range of industries within the UK, everything from a low-risk shop office environment right the way through to perhaps high-risk construction, high-risk manufacturing types of industries can result in complexities whilst trying to introduce different standards that need to reflect all these different industries. The majority of health and safety legislation is non-prescriptive, and what we mean by that is that it's very general in its statements. If we take the Health and Safety at Work Act, it talks about the general duties of employers to their employees, and it shall be the duty of every employer to ensure, so far as reasonably practicable, the health, safety and welfare at work of all his employees. So it's quite a general statement, and we use documents called the Approved Codes of Practice that give us that definition. Therefore, interpretation and implementation may vary according to the different organisations and what level they're seeking to comply. Are they seeking to comply with reasonably practicable, or are they seeking to comply with best practice? Health and safety also covers a very broad range of topics, and we have different specialists that contribute towards health and safety, and this may include people from backgrounds that involve engineering, chemistry, physics, biology and psychology, just to name a few. There are also many competing and conflicting demands for organisations, particularly when they're trying to balance the different standards and practices that they need to implement. There may be an industry standard that is conflicting with the general standard around achieving health and safety practices. They will also be trying to balance the spending, profit and loss of an organisation, and therefore will be making risk-based decisions as to the return of investment of implementing health and safety. Health and safety's main focus is to protect people, and although we do talk about equipment safety and premises safety, ultimately it's ensuring that people are able to return home free from illnesses and injuries. However, this does introduce a broader challenge as it's quite difficult to predict behaviour within the workplace, and therefore health and safety does draw a little bit around human failure and psychological issues to understand how people may implement health and safety. So this does create some conflict with understanding human error, but also deliberate acts within the workplace. And finally, our perception of health and safety is shaped by many things: our knowledge, our experience, our background. And if you read about health and safety in social media, sometimes it has quite a bad reputation, sometimes it's quite positive stories. So these types of media can also influence your perception of health and safety. Let's look at some definitions, and we begin with health, a state of well-being in both a physiological and psychological sense. So in occupational terms, it would include not suffering from mental fatigue, stress, noise-induced deafness. We could include bad backs, a repetitive strain injury, work-related upper limb disorder. We could talk about health effects from vibration or radiation, and so forth. Safety is the absence of danger or physical harm to persons, extending in the workplace to things such as equipment, materials or structure. So if you consider when we talk about fire, we talk about mechanical lifting, we start talking about excavation, we talk about construction. They're all physical types of harm to a person. And finally, welfare. Welfare is relating to the provision of workplace facilities that maintain the basic well-being and comfort of a worker. So this includes eating, washing and toilet facilities. You may have access to drinking water, rest facilities, showers, etc. We will be covering these definitions in more detail as we go through this course to understand a little bit more about some of the health topics, safety topics, and also some of the welfare facilities that employers must provide. That brings us to the end of this summary revision. And within this section, we've looked at the multidisciplinary nature of health and safety, the barriers to good standards of health and safety, and we looked at the meaning and distinctions between health, safety, and welfare.